Former NBA star and now activist, Enes, formerly Kanter, now Freedom. Welcome to TRIGGERnometry.
Thank you for having me.
Listen, man, thank you so much for coming. You're fasting. You just got off a plane, so we're grateful for your time.
I appreciate that.
I was actually a big fan of yours when you were playing in the NBA, but a lot of our audience who are not that into sport may not know who you are. So tell us your story. What's your journey through life? You're born in Turkey?
I actually born in Switzerland.
You're born in Switzerland,
Yeah,
right?
born in Switzerland.
I won't say anything else. You tell us the story.
So my father was a scientist, and he was doing his master in Switzerland, and that's where I was born. And I literally stayed there for maybe 9 months. I wish I stayed there longer so I could just speak another language, but came to Turkey. I grew up in east side of a city called Van. I don't know if you guys ever heard that before or not. It's a beautiful town, beautiful city. My whole life, actually, when I was growing up, I wanted to be a soccer player. Because it's Europe, it's the #1 sport in my country. So I was like, you know what, let me just be a soccer player. But I was too tall, too slow for it, So they would just keep making me a goalie. So I was like, you know what, I'm done. I'm done with this sport. And a lot of my friends were like, you're like the tallest one in a school. Why don't you just start playing basketball? And actually, my family did not want me to play basketball. They were all about education. I remember, I gave a promise to my dad. He was like, listen, son, I want you to be a good student before being a good basketball player. So I want you to focus on school first, because it's not guaranteed that you're gonna make it. There are millions of kids out there trying to make it to NBA. So it's not a promise that you're gonna make it. So focus on basketball and by the same time school. So that was the biggest reason I came to America as a teenager. So I could just go to school and play basketball at the same time.
And so you ended up coming here. And tell us, like, were you just naturally talented, or did you have to work your butt off to get in the NBA?
Both.
You have to.
I went to so I'm sure you guys know Fenerbahce.
Yes.
Absolutely. It was one of the biggest, the club team in Turkey. So I was playing for them. But when I was 16, I was literally playing against those guys who are like 30, 35s, So in Turkey, there's no schools, you only go to club teams and you focus on, just making your team better. It doesn't matter, you're 16, you're 18, you're 20. If you're good enough, then you can play with guys who are 30, 35s, So that made me a tougher player. But coming here, in high school, I was literally going against kids who are like, we were kids, literally kids. So playing against this grown men and playing against kids, I was like, you know what, this is just too easy. So in high school, I was one of the best players in the nation. And then I got, I committed and signed with the University of Kentucky. I believe the best basketball program in the nation. I went there for 1 year. Then I got drafted by Utah Jazz.
Wow. So you got drafted by the Utah Jazz. And what was it like playing NBA?
So my first regular season game was against Lakers, against Kobe Bryant at Staples Center.
Oh, so that's awesome, man.
So I grew up as a Lakers fan, right? So playing against Kobe for the first time ever, in front of Staples Center, 20,000 people. I was like, I remember Coach called my name. I'm sitting on the bench and I'm walking, right, to in the game. I'm like, my knees are shaking. I'm getting thirsty. My knees are shaking. I'm like, what's going on? One of my teammates missed a shot. I got the offensive rebound and I was about to finish. They fouled me. So I'm in the free throw line and I see Paul Gasol. I see Andrew Bynum, and I see Kobe was waiting for me to shoot the free throw.
Oh, wow.
These are like three legendary players.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and there are 20,000 people are booing me. I was like, oh my God. So I spin the ball. I'm taking a couple dribbles. I'm going to shoot. My hands, I can see that my hands are shaking. I took a shot. I missed. And everybody was like, yay, whatever. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this. So the second shot, I'm like, okay. I took the shot, I made it. I was like, this is gonna be my life from now, so I better get used to it.
Yeah.
So at that moment, I'm like, just start playing, and that game we end up losing by 30 points. Kobe ended up scoring 40 points, and it was a very tough game for us. So it was my welcome back to the league moment.
Yeah.
Welcome to the league moment. So after that, I just just practice hard and try to do my best to just be one of those players.
And Enes, what does it take to become a professional athlete, but more specifically an NBA athlete? Do you need a special mindset?
Everybody obviously talking about the mindset and the practice. I feel like to all the kids actually are asking me this. If you want to become a basketball player, you have to live like an NBA player, because not only practicing 2-3 hours, it's just not enough. You have to eat well, sleep well, go to sleep early, be disciplined. You have to be dedicated. And I think the mental toughness is the most important part if you're playing basketball, especially NBA, because now with all the social media and Twitter and Instagram, you miss one important shot, like the whole city, whole state are just is destroying you. I remember in some of the playoff games, right? You cannot play good every game. So I remember in some of the playoff games, if I have a bad game, I was didn't want to even go out to a restaurant or a mall or to walk around. I was just very worried about what the fans will say, Yeah. So to me, it was always okay, I gotta have a good game, or they just gonna just destroy me in the media. The fans are gonna say the craziest things, and all my friends and family and everyone gonna read it. So it was it was just taking a lot out of me.
It sounds like a lot of pressure, man.
Oh my God, yeah. A lot of pressure, because if there was no media, if there was no this sports writers, whatever, then you're good. But their job is literally to just wait for you to make a mistake so they can put that mistake everywhere in the world. Yeah. And obviously once the sports writer writes anything about it, then the national media takes it, and everyone talks about it. That's why it's so mentally, it's the toughest. 20% is, I always say 20% of it is just physical and 80% mental, because physical part, you can literally just go to the gym and work out for 2 hours and lift. And after the practice, you can get some extra shots and you're good, So the physical part is easy, but the mental part is the toughest part.
And how did you deal with that? Because it's something that a lot of people we talk to who are not in the sports world, you become a public commentator, you write a book or whatever, and you find yourself in a position where people have an opinion about you that you can't control, right?
It was just so weird, because you cannot have any bad days, because those fans don't know what you're going through. You might have a family problem, maybe you broke up with your girlfriend, or you're having a problem at home. Maybe you're getting divorced, or maybe you're about to have a kid. So not every day your mind is with basketball. But the fans see that, and they're we are paying thousands of dollars to watch you play. So we are it was like a circus, It was literally like a circus. Mm-hmm. And we cannot have any bad days. So how you come? I think the one thing that we always did was just after a game, we're just sitting down in a locker room, and if someone had a bad day, if someone missed a very important shot, if someone doesn't feel like themselves, we're sitting down in a locker room and say, okay, we are family. Whatever is happening, let's talk in a locker room, and whatever happens in the locker room stays in the locker room. Maybe we were going to fight, maybe we were going to talk, maybe we were going to discuss this, that, but it's not going to come out of this locker room. So that made all of us feel so much better. I'm okay, some people, I missed the game-winning shot, the whole city might hate me, the whole media is going to destroy me tomorrow morning, but at least I have my teammates back.
Yeah.
And we always have this strategy. If one of those media out there will come after us, we're going to protect each other.
Yeah.
Because media loves drama. So they're gonna be like, well, this player didn't pass you the ball. You could have just dunked the ball. Are you mad at him? And if you say anything that
and inside you are mad at him, right?
Inside, of course. I'm gonna punch him in the face. We could have won the game.
Yeah.
But if you cannot, even if even if you roll your eyes, I promise you, they take a screenshot of that.
Right.
And the next day, Enes doesn't like his teammates.
Yeah.
So that's why athletes, when they get asked questions by the media, it's always the same. You know, I love my teammates. We just need to work hard, and we'll get the next one.
But that's not what we talk in the locker room. Obviously, in the locker room, you're like, dude, I was open. Why didn't you pass me the ball?
Right.
Or like, what's going on? Do we have a problem?
Yeah.
So we were trying to solve every problem in the locker room. And when we got out of this locker room, we're all good. You know.
There's the most famous and the best rugby union team in the world are New Zealand All Blacks. And they have a policy called the no dickhead policy. That's literally the name of it.
Interesting.
And what they say is, it doesn't matter how talented you are. It doesn't matter how good a rugby player you are. If you are a dickhead, you're not going to play for the All Blacks.
I love it. Actually, I had a teammate, Steven Adams. Do you know Steven Adams?
Steven Adams from New Zealand.
New Zealand. So
Great player.
Yeah.
One of the games, I had a really good game. And he said, he's gonna bring me a gift. So the next game, he brought me this all black jersey.
Yeah.
I can't remember who he was, but I was like, oh, cool. I posted it, and so many people were just retweeting it and liking it and say, we didn't know you're a fan, whatever. But no, I had a teammate like that, Steven Adams.
And we've talked about, the pressure, but what's probably even more difficult, Enes, is how do you deal with success? How do you deal from going from a regular background to all of a sudden being a young kid who is surrounded by wealth, adulation, fame, women? I mean, if that had happened to me when I was 20, I'd be in rehab now.
19.
19.
Even worse, you're a teenager. I mean, so that's why NBA have this like programs. It calls like rookie transition program. So whenever you enter the league, you go to these programs, and the older or retired players comes and gives you their experience, that what happened throughout their career. And some of the things that you hear is just unbelievable. Because think about it, you're 19 years old. You're just getting drafted. The whole world is talking about you. They're giving you millions of dollars. And everywhere you go, you don't have to pay for anything. You eat free food, you shop free, you do everything for free, And you literally become a huge celebrity. And now with all the social media and everything, you have a huge influence and you can inspire so many people. But sometimes like players don't know what to do with all this fame, all this money, So that's why they go to clubs and they go to bars and they find 10, 20 girlfriends and it just boom.
Did you do any of that?
No, because I had a really good team around me. And they always protected me, because I mean, coming to America, my family raised me really well. And they were like, I'm obviously, because of my faith, because I'm a Muslim, I'm not allowed to drink. I'm not allowed to really go out. I'm not allowed to do certain things that my teammates were doing, So that really protected me. But other than that, I had I think average NBA player's career is 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Because they come into the league, boom, clubs, girls, drinks, this and that, and they're gone. You know?
Yeah. So it was your faith that kept you on the straight and narrow. But I guess the question is as well, it's just, there must have been a part of you that was tempted. There must have been a part of you where you just thought to yourself, look, we're all men, we're all human. There must have been a couple of ladies where you're like, I've worked really hard this week.
It is so crazy because everywhere we go, they were waiting for us. We go to a hotel, they're waiting at the lobby. We go to a game, they're waiting. We go to a restaurant, we go to a mall. They know our schedule, obviously. The schedule was out before the season. So every city we go, for somehow they already know the hotel we're staying. So it's like, you go down to the lobby and there are like hundreds of them. Literally hundreds of them.
I feel your pain, Enes.
Yeah.
What a terrible
this
life.
was before Instagram.
Right.
Once the Instagram came, so they already know our schedule, So before we go to these cities, they were already DMing us. I say, hey, you're coming to our city, let's hang out. And it was literally like a menu. You just literally just scroll it down. Okay, I did not do this. I'm just saying, like,
of course.
people who did it. It was like a menu. You just go down. You're like, I want a blonde today. I want a brunette today. I want this. I want that. You could literally just pick, or 1, 2, maybe more. So that's why a lot of the players were just losing focus because of all that.
Yeah.
They thought that this is gonna last forever. But they were just going out and partying all night and coming to the game the next day. They can't even walk because they're hangover from last night. I had a lot of teammates. I'm like, we had a game. So we usually go to the city the night before, and then in the morning we have practice, and then at night we play basketball. We play the game. I had a lot of teammates, even in the morning, before the practice, they were like, they could hardly walk. So I'm like, how are you gonna go out there and play basketball? Compete against these guys like Kobe, LeBron, or Kevin Garnett, Dirk Nowitzki, Paul Gasol. And they're like, well, I'll be fine, I'll take a nap. He was end up getting hurt because his body was just not ready for that level.
And also, it makes it more challenging, particularly if you come, like a lot of these guys, from very poor backgrounds, where you have nothing. And then it's not like you go into business and gradually you build yourself up and you're starting to make, it's 0 to 100 miles an hour.
That's why, like you ask so many people, a lot of the NBA players goes broke right after their career because, when you come from like, poor families and your first contract is like $20 million. What do you want to do? You want to show off, right? So you want to buy your friend a car, you want to buy your other friend a house, you want to buy another friend a car, and these are like really expensive cars and homes. So you really want to, you're really trying to take care of your whole street, your whole neighborhood, And you go out there and buy this like $100,000 or jewelries or watches and stuff, which you don't even need, So they always think that, okay, money's going to come forever. But no, when you get hurt, you're done. If you don't take care of yourself, if you have like an injury prone, then the teams are not going to sign you.
What was the big thing that you bought?
With my first contract, I literally took my teammates to Pizza Hut. Literally, the Pizza Hut. And we had a blast. We had so much fun. And it was like all you can eat too. So we were just like killing it.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think, I really didn't buy anything like
House, car, nothing? Watch?
Nothing.
Really?
Nothing. As you see, I'm a very simple person. I mean, I was like, the one thing I've always done, I was just donating a lot of money to some of the families out there, especially in Turkey. Because I'm sure you guys know the situation over there.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
But other than that, I didn't really buy anything crazy.
Hey, Konstantin, do you like being healthy?
Of course, in my country we judge man's health by his ability to wrestle bear. Turns out in London wrestle bear has very different meaning.
We've all had a night that's got out of hand.
We will speak no more of this. This secret will be buried with my ancestors.
Well, if you want to stay healthy and not feel like you need to be buried with Konstantin's ancestors, then you need to try AG1.
AG1 is a simple and easy way to get all nutrients you need. Each serving contains 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food sourced ingredients. One scoop and you feel like a real man.
We used it on our America tour where we were constantly on the move, living out of a bag and working every day. AG1 meant we felt great, looked great, and we avoided getting sick. One scoop a day meant we knew we had all the vitamins and minerals needed for the day.
We had hugely successful trip. It is very economical and I felt strong enough to wrestle American bear, which we all know is grotesquely weak compared to Great Russian bear.
If you're looking for a simpler and cost-effective supplement routine, AG1 is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/trigonometry.
That's athleticgreens.com/trigonometry. Check it out and become real men like me.
One of the questions that's always interested me about when you talk to elite athletes is obviously everybody who plays the NBA is absolutely exceptional as an athlete.
Right.
But there is this kind of little strata of the people at the top. And it doesn't matter whether it's football, like Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, or it's people like Kobe Bryant. That little sliver of people at the top, what makes them so special that even as professional athletes, they're head and shoulders above every single other person?
What makes him so special, I believe, is we are all athletes. We know how to train our body. We know what to do when we go in the gym, when we work out. We know our weaknesses. We know our strengths. We know how to eat well, sleep well. We have all the resources. I think the mindset. I had so many teammates like Damian Lillard, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, Jason Tatum, and these players were the one that always coming to the gym first and leaving last. And I think what makes them so special is, they were not only just so amazing individually, but they make themselves better and they make everybody else better around them. That's what makes them really special. And I think being a good leader is really important in this league. You can average 20, 25 points, but if you're not winning any games, if you're not helping your teammates, if you're not affecting the game, that's just nothing. They're just like empty stats.
Yeah.
We call it empty stats, But if instead of you 25, you're scoring 20 points, but you're making your teammates score 10, 15 points, and now they're happy. They want to play. They want to win games, So that's what separates from great players and good players.
And you play a position where people giving you the ball is important. Like you need people, the little guys, to give you the assists. So that's coming from that. Well, before we move on to the more your activism and other things, best player you ever play with?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I might go with Russell Westbrook.
Really?
Yeah, I gotta pick him over. Because when I play with him, the season that I played with him, he averaged triple-double. Mm-hmm. He got the MVP, and he was the best player in the league, And right now, people give him so much. People right now are just really talk badly about him because of his character, whatever. But I think he was one of the best teammates I had.
That's so interesting. Can I push back just as a casual basketball fan? Because I always think when I look at Russell Westbrook is that individually he's a great player, but I always thought the reason he's not won anything is that his style, it's not about his temperament or personality, his style is not necessarily always making the team better. But you say the opposite.
Well, I'm totally saying the opposite because he actually,
And Russell, please don't hurt me. I'm a lot smaller than you.
To understand Russell, you have to play with Russell.
Right.
That's when you know how good of a teammate he is on and off the court. That's how you know how good of a leader he is and how good of a basketball player he is, So a lot of people give him a lot of bad stuff. But
so why do you think he hasn't been able to win the chip?
There are a lot of great players out there that did not win any championship, like Karl Malone, Chuck, trying to think who else. There are, many other players that did not win a championship. So yeah.
All right.
And who's the best player that you played against? Who was the guy that when you saw, you were just going to think to yourself, "Oh, not this, not him again, please"?
I think Kobe Bryant.
Really? You came in the league when?
2011.
So he was already maybe past his prime a little bit by that
he was still killing it.
He was still killing. Oh yeah,
he was killing it, obviously.
Yeah.
But I must say, Kevin Durant I played against, Stephen Curry I played against, Dirk I played against. But I'm trying to think. I think I'll say Kobe.
Why? What was so special about him? What made him so different?
I think his mentality. Everyone talks about the mama mentality, but I think his mentality was just on a different level. He was, like I said again, he was always first one in the gym, and he was just, he hates losing. Some players love winning, but he hates losing. There's a big difference. When I get drafted, one of the scouts asked me, "Do you love winning or do you hate losing?" I was like, "I hate losing." I was like, "Good," you know. But
That's the right mentality if you
Yes.
want to
Yeah.
be super successful.
yeah, so but he did not. His focus was just on a different level. Very professional, unbelievable guy.
And you also, I see it in sport a lot, particularly soccer. There are some players, Cristiano Ronaldo is the ultimate example of this,
Exactly.
who have a killer instinct. He's a killer.
No, so when I was playing for Oklahoma City Thunder, we actually went to Real Madrid and
Yeah.
we watched him play, and we actually get to meet him. Got to meet him right after the game, and you know, you always see him on social media or TV how he's like ripped and stuff.
Yeah.
I promise we have a picture. He was like not even quarter of our size. I'm like, this is the guy that is on TV, just all ripped and stuff.
Yeah.
He was just like, this is like very skinny. Compared to us, he
Yeah.
was very small.
Yeah, well, basketball players carry a lot more muscle than
Yes.
footballers
Yeah.
because you don't run as much. Well, Enes, listen, one of the things I really enjoyed so far in our conversation is when you talk about basketball, you light up. It's I can tell it's something you enjoyed.
yes.
You enjoyed, right? And yet, as we sit here, you're not an NBA player.
Not, yeah.
And you don't even have the same name that you had,
Nope.
right? Because you made some changes and you spoke up about things that you cared about, and you've paid the price, right? Tell us about that.
Well, I mean, my activism started when I was a kid. So in Turkey, I'm not sure how much you guys know the Turkish politics, whatever. So if you're in Turkey, if you're a politician, you do if you want to be elected again, you do two things. You attack America and you attack Israel. Just because of the base is so uneducated, right? They're like, wow, look at our leader. He's standing strong against America. He's standing tall against Israel. So let's vote for him. So that was the situation when I was growing up. So on TV, newspaper, there was just propaganda all day. I was 9 years old. I went downstairs to play with my friends, and I remember my friends. They're not even teenagers. My little friends were burning flags. They were burning American flags. They were burning Israeli flags. And I asked them, like, guys, what are you doing? They said, well, that's what we see on TV. They're evil, they're bad, they're terrible. So they gave me a flag to burn it. I took the flag, I took the lighter, I'm looking at it. I'm like, this is not right way to do it. So I threw it down, I ran upstairs to my mom. I was like, Mom, my friends are telling me to hate America. They're telling me to hate Israel. They're telling me to hate Jewish people, hate Christians, hate Americans. What do I do? My mom said, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but do not hate anyone before you meet them. And I'm 9 years old. So that day I give a promise. I'm not going to hate anyone. So when I was 17 years old, right, my dad was seeing the environment that I was growing up in. They're like, this is just too toxic, get out of here. So they wanted me to play basketball and get my education at the same time. So they said, okay, it's time for you to go to America. So I remember coming here for the first time, my plane was about to land. I'm so excited, but at the same time, I'm so nervous because I just don't know what to expect. Because the last 17 years, the environment I live in was just very toxic. Because you ask, if you have any friends in Middle East, you ask them, you know, in some of the schools, in some of the classes in Middle East, they have flags. They have American flags and they have Israeli flags. And if you are a student, if you're a little kid, if you don't step on those flags, you're not allowed to attend the class.
Wow.
Think about it. And I am growing up in an environment like that. So I came to America for the first time. I'm so like shocked. I'm just looking around and trying to like get to know people and stuff. But I remember my teammates tried to have a conversation with me for the first time. I left the locker room. And I just didn't know what they were trying to do. And they were so nice. They were like, hey, let's take you to a mosque. Let's take you to go get some halal food and stuff. I was like, what are they trying to do? I remember going to my first Shabbat dinner. It was very interesting because I didn't know she was Jewish, or I don't think I would even be friends with her in the beginning. So then I remember the promise that I gave to my mom. I was like, okay, I'm coming. Before I went to her house to have a Shabbat dinner with her family, I called my Turkish friend who lives in America. I was like, if you don't hear from me for the next 2 hours, call the police. Think about it. Because I just don't know what to expect. Anyway, I took a chance. I went there. It was an amazing dinner. I mean, because I don't know how much you guys know, but like they're so close to our religion, our culture.
Yeah.
The food is almost like the same. So it was unbelievable experience. When I was going back to my hotel, I started to tear up because I was thinking there are millions of kids in the Middle East right now is growing up anti-Semitic, anti-West, anti-American, anti-Christian just because of those hate speeches coming from these politicians. So I was like, we gotta change it, you know? And then after that, I promised myself, I was like, whatever it takes, I'm gonna stand for what's right.
And how did that then manifest in your NBA career? Because when I was watching the NBA, as I do, you know, you were a great player. You played for a number of teams. You know, I saw you play in New York and Oklahoma and you know, a bunch of Portland as well. You mentioned Damian Lillard. But I never really heard anything at the time. And that's maybe because I wasn't paying enough attention. But it seemed like there was a particular couple of moments maybe that really changed the trajectory of your life and your career.
So there was a corruption scandal happened in Turkey back in 2013. And that was the first time I said something about it because President Erdogan and his family members were involved in it. And so after the corruption scandal, I said something. I literally put a very simple tweet out there. Because of the NBA platform, it became a conversation in the United States and in Turkey. I'm waiting for this.
Yeah, keep going.
It's all good.
It's all good.
We're in New York, man.
Yeah.
So I was like, even one simple tweet can affect this much from now, and I'm going to start paying attention about what's going on in my country more and more. So I started to study. I remember my teammates were going out to parties, clubs, and whatever, and I was going back to my house. I was studying about what's going on between what's going on in the Middle East, what's going on between America and Turkey and stuff. So the more I studied, the more I started to talk about these problems. And obviously every time I talk, it was becoming a conversation. And Turkish government hated that. I mean, first, my dad was a scientist. He got fired from his job. My sister went to medical school for 6 years and she still cannot find a job. My little brother was playing basketball. He wanted to be like his big brother, play in the NBA, but he was getting kicked out in every team because of the same last name. So they were getting affected so much, they had to put a statement out there and said, we are disowning Enes. Actually, the letter is still out there on the internet. You guys can read it if you want. After that letter, I remember going to a practice. It was definitely one of the toughest days in my life, right? So then Turkish government didn't believe that. They sent police to my house in Turkey and they raided the whole house and they took every electronics away. Phones, computers, laptops, iPads, because they wanted to see if I am still in contact with my family or not. So after the raid, they couldn't find no evidence, but they still took my dad in jail for a while. But we put so much pressure from here with the politicians, the media, with some of the celebrities to Turkey, they had to let him go. And then, you know, they revoked my passport, they put my name on Interpol list, they put a bounty on my head, and, you know, they send death threats every week now and stuff. I have 12 arrest warning for me right now in less than 9 years. So
just for speaking.
And you know, the crazy thing is, whenever I have a conversation with some of them, whenever I give an interview, I always say, look at every interview that I have given so far. Look at every op-eds, look at everything I have write or tweet so far. I never talk about politics. I keep it pure human rights and I talk about political prisoners. And if that makes me a terrorist, okay, I'll take it, I guess. You know what I mean? So the reason I did not want to talk about politics is because human rights is above politics. So I was like, you know what? I don't care about the politics side of it. I just want to help people. So I was like, it's pure human rights.
And it's what made you keep going, because there's a lot of people who would see the pain that was being inflicted on their family and would think, look, family first,
right? And
I'm just going to step back. And I have a lot of empathy for that point of view.
You know, the family always first, 100%. But you know, people knows my situation and my family situation because obviously I play in the NBA. But there are thousands of families out there in jail. Their situation is way worse than mine. I mean, I was looking at the numbers just recently. Right now, there are 17,000 innocent women are in the jail waiting for help. And these women have did not commit no crime. You know, these are just housewives, lawyers, doctors, teachers, whatever, and they work in a places which is, or they work in a media outlets which is said something against the regime in Turkey. And a lot of the reports out there, like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, Human Rights Foundation, saying that these women are getting tortured and raped, you know? So I'm like, I had to make a decision. I'm like, you know, yeah, obviously it's important to go back, be able to go back to my country, see my family, hang out with my brothers and sisters and stuff. But here, there are thousands of people are suffering.
And do you feel a particular sense of duty because you have a big audience, because you have a platform?
I think so. I think, you know, this platform is given me by God. So I was like, you know what? This is just God's work, because I'm actually losing money. I'm actually losing endorsement deals by talking about these issues. You know, it's not like this is making me more famous. This is getting me better contracts. This is making me join better teams. This is literally like taking a lot out of me, but it's still important for me.
And I imagine your agent was going, well,
he wasn't the happiest, because once you talk about these problems, many of the teams, especially the owners, are like, I mean, this is a huge deal. This guy, literally, they consider him as an international criminal. They put a bounty on his head. So it's a big distraction for our team, you know? Because it was, whenever I joined a team, the whole year was not about basketball. The whole year was about, the whole international media was talking about what's going on in my life. Either a bounty, either me meeting with the world leaders, or either me going to talking about some of the problems that are happening in the world. So the focus was shifting away from basketball, and no one could have say anything like, why are you doing it? Because, like I said again, it was pure human rights, so no one really could have challenged me. So, so for the coaches or for the owners, it was a big distraction.
And Enes, did anybody ever say to you, look, if you, let's be honest, if you shut your mouth, this will mean that you get a better deal. There's a chance that you could go to a better club. There's a chance that you could have a far better career.
Right. Not when the topic was Turkey, but when the topic was China, yes.
Well, this is what I was going to say, because you pissed off the Turkish president, but this wasn't enough, right? Because you then had to piss off the Chinese Communist Party as well. Tell us about that.
Oh, just before we do that, there's one thing that I want to say, because I see Mesut Ozil, who is a huge Turkish footballer, and he has appeared in photographs, and he's supporting German Turkish footballer, and with Erdogan.
So I did respect him till he took a picture with Erdogan. You know, it's not like. So he did talk about the Uyghurs. He was literally talking about some of the important things that are happening in our world and stuff. So I was like, wow, this is very amazing. This is very interesting. And a soccer player going out there and talking about something bigger than soccer. But this is beautiful. Till I saw that he's endorsing Erdogan. Then he lost me. And he did not only lose me, he lost millions of people around the world. Now, whenever I go and have a conversation with one of the Turkish people, whatever, they said, well, I mean, he was a good player, but, you know, he's affiliated with Erdogan.
So you talk about Turkey, you have all this trouble, but that's not enough for you.
So this is how it all started. So for the last 10 years, I focused on Turkey. The reason, obviously, my plate was full because my family, I haven't been able to see my family almost 10 years now. A lot of my friends and neighbors and whatever in Turkey stuck in jails and stuff. So just last summer, I am doing a basketball camp in New York. So after we had an amazing basketball camp with the kids. After the basketball camp, all the kids just lined up in front of me, and they were just getting pictures and taking, getting autographs one by one. So I remember, I took a picture with this kid, and his parents called me out in front of everybody. The media was there, my friends, some of my, other, athlete friends were there, and little kids were there. he said, how can you call yourself a human rights activist when your Muslim brothers and sisters are getting tortured and raped every day in concentration camp in China? And I'm still smiling for the camera. So I took a picture with this kid. I turned around. I was like, I promise I'm going to get back to you. So that day, I canceled everything. I went back to my hotel. I started to study about what's going on over there in China. And the more I studied, the more I realized, wow, this is just crazy, and no one have the courage to talk about this issue. You see Uyghurs, and the more you study, you see like Tibetans, Hong Kongers, Taiwanese people, Mongolians, Falun Gongs, they are all under heavy persecution by Chinese government. So I was like, well, I gotta talk about it. But on internet, you can find all kind of news. You don't know which one to trust or not. It could be a fake news, it could be real news. So I called my manager. I was like, I need you to find me a concentration camp survivor. Obviously, he was very shocked. He's like, what are you talking about? He said, well, just find me one. So he did find me one. It was a lady. So we sit down, had a conversation. I had an amazing 1-hour conversation with her. You know, I wanted to just learn the story from, firsthand. So she was telling me about all the torture methods, all the gang raping, all the forced sterilization, abortion, and organ harvesting, and surveillance cameras. And I was like, the more she talked, the more I was like ashamed with myself. I was like, I cannot believe that God gave me this huge platform and I only focused on one dictatorship. So I was like, from now on, I'm gonna talk about every dictatorship. That moment. So I ended our conversation. I asked her, I was like, how can I help? She said, I don't need your help, I'm good. I was like, so why did we have this 1-hour conversation for no reason? Like, why did you even come here? She said, I live in America. I live a good life here. I can do whatever I want. I can say whatever I want. I can eat whatever I want. But help those people, help those 2-3 million Uyghurs are in concentration camp in China because they are getting tortured and raped every day. So at that moment, I'm like, I don't care what kind of contract or endorsement deal or anything you can offer me. I'm just gonna go out there and just expose the whole system. And that's how it all started.
And we know that the NBA has the Chinese market is bigger than the American market.
Exactly.
So this didn't go down well.
So, like I said again, I wanted to do it in a very unique way. So later on, if someone comes and say, "Why are you doing this?" I'm like, "This is human rights." So you're telling me that you don't care about human rights, So I wanted to do it in a very unique way because I remember when I was a kid, whenever I watched an NBA game, the first thing I was watching was the shoes. I mean, everyone loves shoes, what color they are, what brand it is, if they're comfortable. The next day I was telling my dad, please buy those shoes for me, So I had this idea. I was like, let's reach out to these artists around the world, which they have been oppressed by their governments because they are the one that knows the story more than anyone. And we were like, let's tell them to put all the struggles, all this, emotion, all the stories on the shoes, and we're gonna go out there and play basketball. And these shoes are non-slave labor. I mean, many of the shoes out there in the world right now, unfortunately, they have sweatshops and slave labor. Anyway, so we created the shoes. My first topic was Tibet, free Tibet. It's not a political, it's literally a human rights issue. So I put the shoes on, free Tibet shoes. I went out there and played basketball. It was right. Our first game, I was playing for the Celtics. Our first game against New York Knicks. It was the opening night for the New York, and it was just the whole world was watching that game. It's the biggest rivalry. So I put the shoes on. I'm warming up, and a minute before the game, 2 gentlemen from the NBA came to me and said, "Take your shoes off." I was like, "Excuse me?" They're like, "Well, your shoes has been getting so much attention internationally. You got to take them off." So at that moment, I was just getting ready for my citizenship test in America. So I closed my eyes. I'm like, okay, we have 27 amendments in America. My first amendment, freedom of speech. I told them no. Even if I get fined, I'm not taking them off. They said, we're not talking about fine, we're talking about getting banned, which there is no rule against it. So that half, I played 0 minutes. 0. I went back to my locker room. I had thousands of notifications in my phone. I clicked on the one that my manager sent me. He said, every Celtics game is banned in China. It took them 24 minutes, first quarter, 12 minutes, second quarter, 12 minutes, 24 minutes to ban every Celtics game in television. So I was like, well, that clearly shows the censorship and the dictatorship over there. Anyway, so after that game, I played 0 minutes. We lost the game. And after the game, there was just huge media storm. Literally every media outlet in the world from very random countries, which I never even heard of, wanted to have an interview. I told my manager to decline them all. I don't want to have no interview with anyone. I didn't want my teammates to think I'm doing this for attention. I was like, decline everything. And he was like, are you sure? I was like, decline everything. So after the game, NBA called me. They're like, well, you know what you did. NBPA called me, the Player Association, which I give thousands of dollars every year to protect my rights against NBA. They say, you cannot wear the shoes every game. NBA has been pressuring us. I was like, am I breaking any rules? They said no. They said, well, you can never remember again. I was like, if I'm breaking any rules, tell me, I won't wear them. They pressured me so much. I was like, you know what? Fine. I'm not going to wear free to bet shoes every game. They said, promise? I said, promise. So we hang up the phone. So the next game, I wore free Uyghur shoes. So
now that's what you call doubling down.
Yeah.
So they called me after the game, the second game. They're like, you're a liar. You lied to us. We can never trust you again. I was like, first of all, relax. Second, I never lied to you. I never said I'm not going to wear free Uyghur shoes. I just said I'm just not going to wear free Tibet shoes. At that moment, they got it. They were not going to be able to make me apologize, took my tweet down and say I was not educated enough, sorry, whatever. So when, after the second game, one of my teammates woke up to me and said, you know, this is your last year in NBA, right? You criticize China, you criticize Nike, you're not going to play basketball every game. Have fun, smile, I hope you win a championship, but this is it for you.
Wow.
And that was it.
And it was as simple as that.
Simple as that. Yeah.
But I mean, you worked so hard, Enes. You dedicated so much of your life to getting to the NBA. You clearly love basketball. Was there no part of you who thought?
I mean, of course, I love basketball, but it's just the promise, I guess, I would say to give to my mom was like, Mom, I promise I'm going to stand up for what's right, whatever it takes, even if it means sacrificing everything I have, you know? I mean, people keep talking about basketball, me losing my career, but I talk about the problems were happening in Turkey. I pretty much lost my family. I haven't seen my mom and dad and my sister over 10 years now, you know? And also when I know that on the other side of the world, people are losing their loved ones, losing their lives and losing their homes, I just couldn't play. I just couldn't go to sleep at night in peace.
And what was the reaction of the manager? What was the reaction of the coaches? What was the reaction of your teammates?
And they were just shocked. They're like, everyone was shocked because everybody knew that this is it. I'm not going to play basketball. And it's not like I'm 35 years old.
No.
It's not like I was 29 years old. I could have played another like 6-7 years. Yeah. So if I did this whole thing when I'm 35, 36, they're like, well, you know, he was going to be done with basketball anyway, so he just did it to have a next chapter in his life. But I could have literally played another 6-7 years. I'm healthy. I love basketball. I love the NBA, the basketball side of it, not the politics side of it, obviously. But this is just bigger than myself, bigger than NBA, bigger than basketball.
And Enes, I think anyone watching this or listening to this will know that you're coming from a good place, really from a good place, and you're doing what you believe and you're standing up for what you believe. But there are also people who will say, you know, we see this with kneeling in relation to BLM in the NBA and in soccer. We see this with Colin Kaepernick, etc. But there are people who say, you know, sport is sport and politics is politics. And you violated that separation.
So like I said from the beginning of our conversation, there's a difference between politics and human rights. I don't do politics. I have never in my life said, even about Turkey or China, let's vote for this guy, let's vote for this party, I don't like, I endorse this person. never in my life, you know. I kept it pure human rights. So if they are against what I'm saying, that means they're against human rights, you know. And because and also not only basketball players, but athletes has a huge platform. They can literally inspire millions of kids out there. Now with all the social apps, phones, everything, you know, they're just literally becoming an educator. And now you see all the kids are literally just following the daily routine that these athletes has. So it's in your hand to just put the good things out there and the bad things out there, you know? You see all this, some of the players were putting out there with alcohol and girls and clubs and all, and expensive jewelries and cars. But same time, you see other athletes talking about what's more important for our society, you know? So,
sorry, Enes. I was going to say, was there not a part of you, because you're obviously a bright guy, you have studied about America, and you looked at the way the NBA have effectively cancelled it, and you thought to yourself, well, this is my First Amendment right, I'm going to take you on. Was there not a part of you was like, right, if we want to go to battle, let's go to battle?
I mean, this was the craziest thing, because I was just keep asking myself, how can the biggest dictatorship in the world can control 100% American-made company and fire an American citizen? I would just keep asking this question to myself. And one of my friends said, study and you will see more. So the more I studied, the more I realized NBA is not the only one. You see Hollywood, big tech, academias, Wall Street, farmland, Congress, local Congresses, they all run by one of the dictatorships out there. Like after my basketball career, I was like, you know what, basketball is over. I am still an athlete. I'm still in a good shape. Let me do something else about sports. So I grew up as a huge WWE fan, huge wrestling fan. So I was like, well, I was already in conversation with some of my friends over there and stuff. So I started to have conversations. People heard about it and stuff. And one day, one of my friends called me from WWE. They said, listen, we know that you like to talk about some of the, you know, problems that are out there happening in the world, but I gotta tell you something. I was like, what happened? She said, talk about anything in the world. You can talk about anything in the world, but if you ever talk about Saudi Arabia, you're never gonna wrestle. I was just like, what are you talking about? They said, whatever China is for the NBA is WWE for Saudi Arabia. They said they make so much money from Saudi Arabia every year, which is girls are not even allowed to wrestle there. If you say anything against it, you're not going to be able to wrestle. I was like, well, it's too late. You know? So I see, the more I study, the more I realize every organization, CEO, or companies has been bought by someone bad out there, you know? I even call out, you know, all this, the war happening in Ukraine is obviously, it's horrible, it's disgusting, whatever. But you see all these like CEOs, all these organizations and companies are pulling out of Russia. I was like, we were just having this huge conversation with many important people. I was like, if God forbid China to ever try to invade Taiwan, would you guys do the same thing? No answer.
And the reason is obviously because China is a bigger and more powerful market.
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
Right. And did you think that, I mean, you say it's not politics, and I know what you mean, but these issues, unfortunately, are political, right? People politicize them. And we saw with, for example, BLM, the NBA treated that very differently to your
Very
case.
differently.
To put it
Very
mildly.
differently. Well, the reason was they know that, you know, during the NBA bubble, I was in an NBA bubble. I'm sure you guys know about the NBA bubble.
But tell our audience.
So 3 years ago, in 2020, the COVID hit, and NBA obviously still wanted to make money. So they took all of us into a hotel in Disney. So we were in a hotel over 82 days, and we just couldn't, you know, meet with anyone from the outside. You know, they were testing us twice a day. And it was all about social justice. They put the BLM logos on the floor. They put those phrases behind our jersey, which was controlled by the NBA. It was all about social justice and standing for what's right. And I was like, you know what? This is your freedom of protest. I got you. If you want to do it, do it. I'm not against it. But NBA knew that the things that they stand up for in America is not going to affect their business. They are going to shut you up about anything if the things that you talk about affects their money or business. I was like, because I was seeing the hypocrisy, you know? So BLM and everything was, for them, it was just PR. You know, they were just trying to do PR, trying to get more clicks, more eyeballs, more recognition. They're like, wow, look at NBA is the first organization that goes out there standing with African-American community in America. Wow, what an amazing organization. But then China happened. And I was like, first couple of games, I was like seeing that, I was like, where's my support? Where's Adam Silver? Where is all these owners and billionaires or teammates or coaches? Where are they? You know, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to expose the whole system. After I got released, China put the games back on television after 3 weeks. And we found out, we did the whole investigation, we found out 40 NBA owners have got tied up $10 billion in China. I was like, well, that clearly shows why I'm out of the league.
Yeah. And did teammates, do they still talk to you, or are you kind of seen as a kind of pariah figure?
Good question. So when I was playing, they were really supportive, silent support. You know, they were very supportive. They're like, it was the perfect moment because it was right before the Beijing Olympics. I was like, guys, join me. Forget about the NBA. I was reaching out to NFL, MLB, NHL, MLS, all the major leagues in America. Forget about America. I was even reaching out to Olympians. I was like, this is not a political issue. This is a human rights issue. So let's just join me. We'll create a movement. We'll talk about the slave labor. We'll talk about the sweatshops. We talk about the people over there dying. They're like, listen, we love you, we support you, but we just cannot do it all out. I was like, why? They said, well, we have shoe deals, endorsement deals. We want to get another contract. I asked them one simple question. I was like, put yourself in their shoes. If your mother, if your sister, if your daughter was in those concentration camps getting tortured and raped every day, would you still pick money and business over your morals, values, and principles? They usually turn around and leave the room.
Wow.
So.
And do you think part of this, the reason that you have this attitude, Enes, is the fact that you have seen a totalitarian regime? You know what that means, you understand that, whereas people who grow up in America, they don't understand what that means.
Exactly.
They have no concept.
I remember one time we were having a conversation in a locker room with my teammates, and they were like, oh, America is bad, America is horrible, America is this and that. I stopped them. I was like, guys, season is about to be over. When the season over, let me buy your tickets. It was a very generous first-class tickets. It's like, let me buy your tickets. And let's go to some of those dictatorships out there, like Russia, like China, like Iran, Venezuela, Cuba, North Korea. And I would like to see if you guys can forget about a tweet, if you guys can even criticize or say something about those regimes. You and your family members will be in torture and rape in jails forever. Just because they didn't grow up. They grew up with so much freedom and democracy in this country, they don't know any better.
And Enes, this is such a beautiful point. You know, as we talked earlier, I'm from Russia, Francis' mother is from Venezuela. It's one of the reasons we talk about the things that we talk about on the show. And one of the things that seems to me is the story of your story and the NBA and how it handled BLM versus how it handled your Chinese and Turkish protest is that it's okay to beat up America.
Yeah.
America bad. America's the worst place ever, blah, blah, blah.
Saying, yep.
And you can't criticize anyone else. We are the worst people. Let's not look anywhere else.
And, you know, that is correct. And also, I was like, I don't want to say I wanted to educate my teammates because they already knew. They already knew that their shoes has been made by slave kids. There are so much blood and sweat and oppression behind those items, you know? They knew a lot of the problems were happening around the world. They knew some of the things that I even talk about. But them picking money and business over their morals, over what's going on, really broke my heart. And now, when I got released, I played 11 years in the NBA. I had hundreds of teammates, hundreds of coaches, so many people from the foreign offices. Not one of them texted me.
Wow.
They said, hey man, good luck with your next chapter. Because they didn't want me to mention their name whenever I give an interview. I was like, hey, this guy supported me, this guy texted me, which I would never do without their permission. Because they knew if I say, hey, this guy supported me when I talked about Hong Kongers, he was gonna get a lot of trouble.
And why do you think they didn't? Is it because they like the money? Is it because they like the lifestyle? Is it because they don't want to get in trouble?
I would say all, but fear is the most important one. You know, there are so many other examples out there, like Richard Gere.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know who that is. He was an actor in Hollywood, and he talked about obviously Tibetans, and he was just gone after that. You know, I think that seeing these kind of examples, me getting released at the age of like prime of my time, you know, is like a really big hit for them. So that's why I was like, you know what, this whole system needs to be exposed. And now they really lost 50% of the country, you know? And now whenever I have a conversation with so many of, you know, the sports fans, they say, well, we love NBA, we love amazing, but they don't stand for what's right. We don't believe that whenever they stand up for one of the social justice issues that are happening in America, that we know that it's not going to hit their pocket, or we know that they're not genuine about it.
Yeah.
Enes, you've been very generous with your time, so I don't want to hold you up too much longer, but are you happy? You happy you did this?
I'm very happy. I have zero regrets. A lot of people ask, that is the one question that I get the most. Do you have any regrets? Obviously, I love basketball. I love my family. Forget about basketball. I love my family. I haven't even been able to even have a phone conversation with them for years, you know? But at the end, like I said again, what I'm doing is bigger than myself, bigger than basketball, bigger than NBA, because while I was dribbling the ball in this country, on the other side of the world, other side of the ocean, people were suffering, you know? And you can only understand that if you lived it. And I did live it, you know? Many of my dad was in jail. Many of my friends right now are still in jail. Many of my neighbors, maybe ex-teammates that played in Turkey, in jail just because of they supported me. I'm happy I did it, but you know, I love basketball. You can never go back to those times, and I love competing. I love winning games. I love going to different arenas and beating their team for their own fans. And it's just the most funnest thing that you could do. But I have no regrets. I'm very happy.
Enes, it's been an absolute pleasure. Before we move on to our locals and where our patrons get to ask you questions, we always finish the interview with the same question, which is, what's the one thing we're not talking about as a society that we really should be?
I think the one word that I just wish that I can just somehow magically put in everyone's heart is empathy. You know, once you have empathy and you can understand what others are going through, you know, we can just live an amazing life in this side of the world, but on the other side of the world, people are literally, you know, running away from wars and running away from bombs and running away from, you know, these terrorist groups, so they don't recruit them, you know. Once you have empathy, you're going to be able to try to understand the other side and do whatever you can to help them, even if it means sacrificing everything. I think we definitely need to talk about that word more, empathy.
Enes Freedom, thank you for coming on the show. Join us on Locals, where we ask your questions to Enes. Take care, and we'll see you over there.
Take care and see you soon, guys.